It's a pleasure to be here for a number of reasons. I'm right down the road in Orlando. I've been a member of NABJ National since I was 15 years old. And this is an organization that I credit a lot with where I am right now. The mentors that I've been able to establish within NABJ, the connections, the contacts, I can't say enough, and I'm going to give you a plug for national for you without even asking. It's very true. This is an organization that literally changed my life. And so I can't say enough about NABJ. Get involved in local, get involved in national, do what you can. Be an associate member, student member, whatever. So I'll give the spiel for you. You know, as we all know, this has been a very tough time in journalism and industry, period. Every day we're inundated with stories about why we can't, why we don't, who we laid off, who doesn't have a job, who just, you know, just all these stories are compiling. And I came to the realization earlier this year that I'm so sick of hearing about why we can't. I want to hear about why we can. And I thought it was such a great example to have somebody like Caleb, a very young musician who's extremely talented. I mean, he blew me away. You know, at 13, I was like playing with like G.I. Joes and, you know, trying to master the Atari, and he's like playing, he's got instruments. I mean, I feel like I'm encountering Prince. You know, Prince played a number of instruments when he was growing up as well. So I think that is sort of the theme I'd like to talk about for this evening, which is why we can and why we do. I'm going to tell you two really important stories that sort of changed my life, for the better, that is. I met a guy, probably, let's see, and don't worry, this is not a romantic story. I met a guy a few months ago in Baltimore, and I was there to do a story on him. Seemed like a pretty good kid. We met at his home because we were actually going to work out together as part of the story. And so I'm not going to reveal exactly who he is right now, so you'll just have to live with the suspense. And he said, like, well, you know, this is who I am and this is what I'm about. And I said, yeah, okay, I get that. But how did you get to be who you are? And he was just like, you know, I just have a lot of determination. And people always tell you that. You know, when you're a journalist, you interview people and you ask them about why they became the way they became. They can't really tell you why, but I've always discovered that it's good to ask them about the road that they came across, or the road that led them to the success that they achieved, because I'm very interested in how people have gotten to where they are. So I asked him, I was like, so how did you come up with this grand idea that has made you quite a bit of money? And he told me one of the most incredible answers that I've ever heard. He said, and I'm not making this up, I was playing with my grandma's panties. True story. And trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Please, don't call the police. Okay? All right. And I was like, oh, really? Because one doesn't fondle one's grandma's panties, right? Considered not a good deal. And he was like, I was in her laundry room, and I was looking for material for this new sports, this new sportswear that I wanted to develop. And I was doing the laundry. And, you know, I touched grandma's panties, it happens, not judging. And I felt like this is a really good material. So he took it to a tailor. And he said, I want you to make a shirt out of this, because I feel like this is the exact fabric that I need to make this sportswear that I eventually want to sell. And he was a student, and he was a walk-on on a college football team. And he figured out that even though he had gone to prep school with the likes of Eddie George, who became a fairly good running back in the NFL, he knew the NFL dream wasn't going to happen for him because he was a walk-on. And he was like, I got to think of a new business plan. This is the guy, you know how you see those guys outside of concerts that sell T-shirts, and you're like, why are you trying to sell me that airbrush with like Tupac and like Left Eye and Obama? Yeah, he was one of those guys. Okay, so he was just like, you know, I sold T-shirts outside of concerts. I made a little bit of money, but I kind of want to take this a little bit higher. And he said, felt the material from my grandma's panties and took them to a tailor. And I said, I want the material to be made out of this. And the guy said, all right, this is grandma's panties. Okay. So he made the material, made him a couple shirts. Then he passed them around to guys on his team, and he said, hey, why don't you wear this? You know, I think this would be good. It'll soak up the sweat. They said, okay, we'll do it. So they wore it. And then he remembered all the guys he went to prep school with, because he had to go to that prep school to lift his grades. So he did it. And he was like, hey, Eddie George, you were one of my classmates. Will you wear my shirt? He said, okay. He wore a shirt. Then another guy noticed it and was like, man, that looks like woman's lingerie. Why are you wearing that shirt? And he was like, man, you should try it. It soaks up the sweat. So one teammate passed it to another person and another person and another person. And next thing you know who that guy is? He's the founder of Under Armour. That's who that guy is. Now, how much money his company made last year? $800 million. And he was a walk-on at the University of Maryland, and he got rich off of grandma's panties. Swear to God. Only in America. I'm not even making that up. It was like the greatest story I ever heard. I was like, for real? Why did I feel on my grandma's panties? Anyway, that's what he did. And that's what I mean about stories about why we can. You know, we hear this all the time. You can't do this because such and such told you no. You can't do this because this industry's bad. You can't be a successful journalist because they're not hiring. That is baloney. We still can. We're still powerful. You know, we still have an opportunity to change the world. I'll tell you another story. You know, and hopefully I won't use up my, you'll tell me when I use up my 15 minutes. See, Camilla's point, like, she gonna Sandman me if I go too long. I'm gonna see a hook and a cane, I'm gonna, you know. So, we go on from grandma's panties to another, what I think is a really, really important story. So, there's this girl that I knew, and she had a dad who was hooked on heroin. I mean, he was so hooked that, like, when he held her in his arms, he still had a needle in his arm. That was like her, for a while, her only contact that she had with her dad. And then she grew up in the projects for a little while. And she had a mom who got hooked on, like, every possible drug there could be, from this to that to the other. But she still had her daughter, and they were still trying and, you know, trying to make their way through. You know, grew up on food stamps, learned how to melt that government cheese, which ought to be a science project in itself. Taking baths and, you know, the old government soap, eating farina. You don't know about that, right? Oh, see, I got some witnesses up in here. Knew about eating that farina, that government cheese and all that. You know, used to send her little girl to the store and say, Mama needs some change. Why don't you go get, like, some bazooka gum for 5 cents, get the 95 cent back. Y'all know about that? What? Used to say that to her. Used to tell her, you know, I'm going to sell these book of food stamps to re-roll on the corner. They worth $100 in food stamps, but I'm going to sell them for $50 so we can keep these gas and lights on. That's what she used to tell her all the time, you know. His kids started hustling at like 15 and 14, working in the welfare office, filing old cases, because her grandma used to be a social worker. That's what she used to do. And then she got a really, really big, awesome break, because there was a newspaper in town that had a high school apprenticeship journalism program. And they were welcoming all students from the inner city of Detroit. And they were saying, you know what? We need some more diversity in journalism. We need some high school students that we can grow from this particular area so that they can maybe one day become journalists. So, you know, the daughter decided, I'm going to go join this program. I like journalism. I have it in high school, because the daughter had two choices. Okay, I can go take personal health with Coach Lynch, and you don't want to hear Coach Lynch talk about sex, because Coach Lynch is like 85, and you're really not trying to hear that, right? Or I can take a journalism program. That was the daughter's two choices, one of the two. So she chose journalism and loved it. And then this high school journalism program came along, and they said, well, you can spend 6 weeks with us in the summer. We'll teach you how to be a journalist. So she spent the 6 weeks there. And then they decided after 6 weeks, you know, we need somebody to answer phones in the sports department. You know, just somebody on Friday nights when high school coaches call in and want to give their scores about who did what. and who won this game? We need somebody to take these scores. Okay, so little girl decided to go ahead and do it. Junior and senior year, she gave up a lot of her Thursday and Friday nights. You know, everybody's partying and going to homecoming dances. She was in the sports department, answering phones and that kind of thing. Okay, so then from there, she decided, you know, I like the school thing, and grades were good enough, so she got a scholarship to a great university called Michigan State University. So she got that scholarship. And then she decided, all right, I'm going to go there, because everybody at this particular newspaper had gone to this university, and they said, you got to go here. If you don't go here, we're going to disown you. So she went there. She came across some really good journalism mentors while she was at this particular newspaper. Bob Magruder, Neil Shine, great icons in the industry of journalism. And they said, you know, kids, you got something in you, you got to go to school. Okay, so she went to school. Mom's still struggling. Mom's going through rehab. But, you know, she went to school and worked 60 hours a week at the college newspaper, still held down 12 to 15 credits, did all that, got out of school, and started working at this place in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she met good people like DeMorris Lee. And then from there, she got to here. As I tell people, I'm from the real hood, I'm not from the rap hood. All right? I've seen my fair share of things that people never want to see. I got two parents, thank God, who both got delivered from drugs. I got two parents who didn't know what to do with her. I raised myself a lot of times. I could probably spot a food stamp from where that bus stop sign is right now and tell you what denomination it is, because that's how I roll. And so people always see, oh, she's Miss ESPN, she's on this show and that show, and they don't realize what has gone on into that. And so that's why I tell you, students, professional journalists, we've heard a lot about why we can't. Let's talk about why we can't. Because all of us have a story. We've all done and been overcome. We've all overcome something. Every one of us. We all got a sound story to tell and get up here and play the world's shortest violin, right? So I suggest in this new age that we focus on the can. Forget about the can. I don't want to hear about the can. The can's too easy. You know, I hear that every day. I see athletes that don't, athletes that, you know, piss away their careers, that get involved in this kind of stuff. But I'd rather talk about the ones that are doing things. You know, you look at Michael Vick. Michael Vick was in prison. And now he might be the MVP. Is that not American? Is that not like the greatest story you've ever heard? Dogfighting to MVP, you know, from going spot versus Fido to MVP. That's how he gets down, right? So, you know, people always ask me about, like, what's the greatest advice you can give to young people, to middle-aged people, to old people. And that's what I always say is, like, remember what you can still do, because there's just so much that's telling you what you can. And even now, I face a lot of that. Being a black woman in journalism and sports journalism, there's not a lot of us. It's kind of a rare group. You know, as Eric mentioned, when I was in Orlando as the sports columnist, I was the only black female sports columnist in the nation. And while that was an honor, I guess, it was also very depressing, because it meant there was a lot of people who were still thinking can't instead of can. And I'm too focused on can. I can't worry about can. I can't worry about what I can't be. I can't worry about what you don't think I should be. I can't worry about what you think I don't deserve. I can't worry about any of that. All I can do is be me and be focused on can. So Camille's tapping her watch. Actually, she's not. But I don't want Sandman to get me, but that's really the one important thing that I've learned, and I hope to pass that on to you today. I don't care what level you are. You could be a youngster. You could be Caleb. You could be DeMorris. You could be Eric. You could be an executive sitting at one of these post-gold tables. Please work with can. I'm so tired of can. Please work with can. Anyway, shall I drop the mic and say sexual chocolate, or can I just leave? All right. Anyway, I'm done, and thank you guys very much for spending that 10 minutes with me. I appreciate it.